I'm in here spraying, and I sprayed a whole bunch of stuff as far back in there as I can go that is wet. There's stuff that farther back there that's not wet, like the actual motor and the hydraulic pump itself doesn't seem to be wet. But I see something down here that got my attention. If I can get the light set up to work for me. Look down there in the bottom where that white circle is right there. That's some of this spray. Watch what happens when I hit that. It's moving because it's a big puddle of oil in there. So it's going to take way too much of this engine spray to do that. I'm just going to pour a whole bunch of Tide laundry detergent, liquid soap in there to help break down the oil. When the water gets mixed with it, it'll help wash the oil out of there by diluting it with the soap. It'll mix with the water. Hopefully. I'm thinking that's a good idea. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. Well, I did wash this thing down and let it drip dry overnight, and this is the next morning, and I found the leak. This hose is wet, but it's not leaking. This foam thing underneath the cab sits on that, and this is saturated with oil because I just dried that off and then set the cab back down and picked it back up, and this was wet again. So what we have leaking is, and what I did was I just got in there, started the motor, and then shut it off. I didn't try to run any hydraulics, just to find out first, is it when the motor is running regardless, and it is. And it's one of these two great big hoses that I'm moving my finger between. They come out of the main pump up here, and they go, one's a pressure and one's a return. They go to the drive motor over here. And they might both be pressure and return for forward and reverse. I don't know. I don't really know on that. Or maybe there's two pressures and one return, because I see a third hose going in there. So I'm not sure what that is. That third hose also branches off from a T right down here and goes to the other side. Got to change a hose on this. I'm going to change two of them because they're almost the same, identical hoses. That one's about 1.5 inches longer than the other. As you can see, these ends are lined up, and this one's about 1.5 inches longer. But let's see if I can get my pen light. It's the hose that goes to the drive motor, and one of them is what I'm shining the light on down there, and the other one is right next to it, right there. And so both of those, they go down. Sorry, I don't have enough light under here to show you, but you cannot see the other end of it because it's underneath this cover here. And how do you get this cover off? Well, you have to take the track off. But I may not have to take it off all the way. This is my first time doing this. I'm going to, I already released the hydraulic cylinder in here that's packed with grease. That adjusts the front idler, pushes it out that way, and keeps the track tight. Well, you gotta pull it back to get the track off, and so you do that by taking this right here off of it, this bleeder valve off of it. That's like a bleeder valve that you have on like hydraulic brakes on cars, pickup trucks. And this is your grease zert here that you pump the grease back in there with to tighten up the tracks. It pushes this, you see that giant spring in here, giant coil spring. It pushes all of that forward and tightens up the tracks. So the spring is actually like a shock absorber, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think it's just like a shock absorber. You push the spring and all of that out, and the spring will bounce. It'll bounce in and out a little bit as you're torquing this thing and hitting bad spots where you're working with it. Otherwise it might just jam and break something without a little bit of a shock absorber there. So since I can't do this the traditional way, which is to jack this thing up and put a couple of pieces of pipe, 3 pieces of pipe, one every second slot in these grooves that are going to ride on this gear, this drive sprocket. That's the normal way to do that. I didn't jack it up because I'm going to try to cheat. I can jack it up if I don't get away with doing this. What I'm going to try to do is just pick it up with the excavator. I'm going to try to put a chain around this, hook it on the excavator bucket, and slowly lift on it and see if I can't get enough slack in there. Maybe I can just tilt this thing, get it off of the sprocket far enough that I can get those covers off of there and have enough room to work. Now, about maybe 10 years ago, I don't remember when, probably before I was doing YouTube videos, the drive motor went bad over here on this side, and I had the track off, and I got the drive motor off, and I took it to the shop and had it fixed, and I put it back on. But that was a long time ago, and it's the only other time I had this apart. I don't remember everything I went through. I do know the excavator was here. I used it, and I had a friend helping. We wrestled with it together and got the track off of there and back on. Somebody told me that I can get to those hoses just by getting these shields off of there, get this track pulled back. Let's see if I can do it that way. If I can't, I'll end up jacking this up. I forgot to say, the reason I can't put a couple pieces of pipe in there and rotate it around to pull this thing in is because if I start the motor, several gallons of oil is going to run out of that hose instantly and onto the ground. And I've cleaned up a lot of the oil that's come out of it. There's more residual that has run out of it since. So it took me a couple of weeks to get the parts. They're here now. That's why I can't just start the motor up and put this thing in drive and run the tracks with it with some pipes or chunks of wood or something in there. I can't do it that way. That's why I'm going to have to try to do it without starting the motor. Gotta be careful I don't hit this machine too hard. I mean, it's solid, it can take some bumps, but I gotta be careful. And I had the chain out here around this tooth at first, but it was pulling everything that direction too far because I can't get this centered over this without hitting that. So I adjusted a little bit. We got enough. The chain will hang on to that. Let's see if it'll. watching the grease come out of that hole. I think we've got it compressed all the way. The front of the track is up against that whole inner body there. So I'm just going to let it sit like this for a few minutes and see if, not a few minutes, but just for a minute. Let it back down, see if I can get this track off of there, off of that sprocket. I got that track off of the drive sprocket, and looks like I have room to get at these covers here. So, don't know if I should leave this bucket hooked up to it and work around that, or just take it off of there. Not a lot of tension. Yeah, there's a lot of tension on there. I'm going to go ahead and pull it outwards a little bit more and then shut the machine off and leave it there. Looks like the track has been rubbing a hole into this, and that's getting close to going all the way through. Once it goes all the way through, that's going to start cutting into the track, because there'll be a hole there and it'll start cutting the track instead of just riding over it. So when I get this cover off, I'm not going to just put it back on like that when I'm done. I'm going to go on ahead and weld this up and grind it down smooth. Where's my camera at? Sorry about that. I got the two hoses exposed, and this was really jam-packed full of dirt. It took me probably 15-20 minutes to dig it all out of there, and then with the air hose blow it all as clean as I can. I don't even remember taking these hoses off before. I feel like it's the first time I've seen these kind of clamps on here. But I know I had this drive motor off and had to get it fixed, so I've been through that before. Apparently I had the sprocket and all this other stuff off of it too. But so the track would have had to have been off completely for that, of course. And it was. I remember the guy that helped me put it back on is a neighbor friend. He's not with us anymore, but that was a few years back. So now I got to get access. I'm going to break these bolts loose, and I'm going to spray them down with some spray and then break them loose so they'll come out when I'm ready. I don't want any dirt falling in there because it's going to fall directly down into the motor. I don't want that. To get access to these two hoses down here, I'm going to have to take these two bars off. Not off completely, I'm just going to undo them here. And this one should have a washer on it, and it doesn't. And then I can slide them out of the way, and then I'm going to take these one of these hoses over to the other shop and find a wrench. I know I don't have any wrenches this size over here, and find out what fits that. 1.5 inch fits it, but I don't know about the lock nut on the back side. I hope it's just going to be the same. Standing on the other side of the machine here, I have access to those hose fittings now. Got these levers pushed out of the way, and I'm going to clean those off and see what it takes to break them loose. The wrench is just on there loose right now, just to show how I broke it loose. It was on the nut all the way a few minutes ago. I've already moved the nut some, but I could not break it loose, and there's little or no room to work on this. But going through this access hole on this side here, I was able to get a more direct shot on the nut in there, and but I still couldn't move the wrench. And so I found this drive shaft that I changed on a pickup truck a few months back, laying over here, and I cut the ends off of it, and it just happens to fit over the round end of that wrench, and I was able to break that nut loose with this drive shaft as a cheater bar. I got that nut off of there, and the rest of it should be self-explanatory. That one is on top, so I'm not putting it on first. I'm going to take it off first, but I'm going to take the second one that's underneath it off, because the two on the other side of it go to the left-hand side of the machine. The two on this side, top and bottom, go to this side, the right-hand side. And I don't know for sure which one of these is leaking. I think it was this one, the one that goes on the bottom, back in here. It's underneath. I think it was this one. I had a mirror under there and a flashlight, and oil was dripping on it. It could have been this one, but I think it was this one. I just bought both of them, and so I'm going to go on ahead and take these clamps off. I think everything's going to be self-explanatory from here on out. Just by chance, I had this side cover, this access area, open over here because I was looking for access to the air conditioning compressor, which is down in here, and it's hard to get to, but that's the only access area that I found to get at it. I got that hose off of there, and I'm going to put a plug in there to keep that clean. And save this plug for another one. It's good to get an assortment. They're cheap, of these silicone plugs. There's the little ones there, and then here's the bigger ones. I don't have part numbers or anything like that, links or nothing for Amazon, but they're cheap on Amazon. Just look for them. Rubber plugs for brake lines, hydraulic lines, whatever. Having trouble getting access, getting the wrench on that nut for the lower hose, so I'm taking this hose off right here just to get it out of the way. That's already loose, should just come right off now. There, now we get ready to get some more room to work on that lower nut down there. We ran into a little problem here. At least I got another pair of hands helping me on this for the moment. The nut behind the hose broke loose instead of the hose breaking loose. So we got another wrench on that and going through that access hole, and we got a chunk of a little short, about a foot long piece of 2x4 underneath the wrench over there to try to hold it close. And he's got the cheater pipe on the wrench on the hose nut. So we're trying to keep that nut that's behind the hose nut stationary to break the hose nut loose. Got that filled in. It was a job, but we got these hoses in, and I think we're going to try to tighten down that top one just a little bit more before we're finished. It's been a job, but my helper showed up today, and so that made the job a little easier. Well, it's good to be on this side of this job. There's the hose that blew out on me, lost all that fluid. And my helper is taking the HVAC down to, we're going to clean the evaporator and the heater core and replace the fan. I got a new fan that came in yesterday right here. All right, thanks for watching.